Under pressure. And before we get started tonight, I just kind of wanted to share something that's been kind of weighing heavy on me and I'm feeling a little emotional about. This is going to be my last night as a bearded man.
Yeah!
And so, take what you will from that, either applause or be really tore up and sad about it. But the beard has run its course. Thank you. I appreciate that. So here we are, second night under pressure. Tonight we're going to talk about expectations. And as that video just kind of showed, that we realize that you guys have expectations that are in your lives. The AP classes, the where are you going to go to college, all of those things. What are you going to do with your life? We have conversations like this with y'all every week. And we realize that those are things that are going on in your lives. And so we want to try to speak into that. And before I go any further, I want to first say that we hear you saying these things. But the point tonight, the next 10 minutes that I have up here with y'all, is not about me solving those expectations for you. It's about us telling you that we hear you, and we are willing to come alongside you and walk alongside you as you deal with these expectations and these pressures. So if you hear nothing else, hear that tonight. As we look at these expectations, these pressures that you face, I first want to kind of look at Jesus' life and how he dealt with the expectations that were laid down on his life. I'm going to start in Isaiah 9. And so when we first pick up in Isaiah 9, already people are speaking expectations into Jesus' life. Already, before this man is even born and stepped foot on the earth, there are expectations of who he is going to be and what kind of person he is going to be. And so in Isaiah 9, verses 6 and 7, we get a little glimpse of what people are expecting about this person. A child is born to us, a son is given to us, and authority will be on his shoulders. He will be named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be this vast authority and endless peace for David's throne and for his kingdom, establishing and sustaining it with justice and righteousness now and forever. So you see, the people, they took these verses, they took these writings, and they started to build up this image of who this Messiah, who this Jesus person was going to be. And you see, they get these wonderful words like Counselor and Prince of Peace. And they start building up expectations, and they look at where it says that this kingdom is going to reign and this kingdom is going to be high, and they think that there is going to be this high king, this lofty king that is coming. And they start to build up expectations of who Jesus is going to be when he steps foot on this earth. Already now, before he is even born, there are expectations of who this Messiah is going to be. They expect a king. They expect someone that's going to be wearing beautiful robes. They expect someone who would never spend time with the poor, but would create a powerful kingdom. And as we'll see, Jesus is going to do something a little bit different with that kingdom. So, I really like trains. Obviously, that's my next thought, right? That follows. Jesus trains. All right. Thank you for the laughs. I really like trains, but ultimately, I should. That's a part of my nature. That's part of my blood. See, here's a picture taken of me recently on a train. Thank you. I'm getting all sorts of compliments tonight. Making me feel good up here. See, I come from a long line of people who have worked on the railroad. Thomas, I'm getting all thrown off. I've come from a long line of people who worked for the railroad. Even before I was born, there was expectations on who I was going to be. Before I was born, my parents knew what they were going to name me. I was destined to be Adam Crane IV. 4, yeah, carry some weight. I was destined to be this person. They knew already who I was going to be. They gave me this name, and when they gave me this name, they spoke something into my life. And in this world, I introduce myself to some people, and they assume that I work on the railroad because they know my father's name and they know his father's name. And so already when I was born and I was Adam Crane IV, there were these expectations on who I was going to be. I had this name that was going to tell me who I was going to be. I was going to follow the generations before me that had worked on the railroad. I was going to follow my uncles and now most of my cousins that work on the railroad. And here I stand as a youth minister. There were these expectations that had been laid down on my life. So you imagine me being what would be a third generation person to work for the railroad. When I came home one afternoon and I told my family, hey, I'm going to be a youth minister. I don't even think my family knew what a youth minister was. And I told them this. And so their expectations were a little bit different. And we struggled through that, and now they're the most supportive people in my life at what I do. But then I went to school, and I told people that I was friends with that I wanted to be this youth minister. And then at school, these different expectations started on my life. And I would show up certain places, and I would be at the party on Friday night, and people would look at me and say, can you really be here? You want to be a youth minister one day. And so these expectations were being given to me about what I could and couldn't do because of the things that I wanted to do in the future. We have expectations that come down on our lives in all different directions, from our parents and from our friends and from coaches, from people that we don't even know. They have expectations that were given on us before we were even born. I know that many of you may have similar stories of expectations that are put down on you. So Jesus, right when he's about to start his ministry, we're in Luke 4/Isaiah 61. Right as he's about to start his ministry, he comes back to his hometown. And he comes back to his church. It's like you guys walking in here on a Sunday night years from now. Or a Sunday morning and walking to the front of the sanctuary. Jesus walks to the front of their sanctuary. And at the time they didn't have Bibles or books, they had scrolls. And so he pulls out a scroll and he unravels it and he comes up to the lectern and he lays it out. And Jesus reads this quote from Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to preach the good news to the poor, to proclaim release to the prisoners, to recover the sight of the blind, and to liberate the oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's good favor. He rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the synagogue assistant, and he sat down. So Jesus walked back into his hometown, this place where people probably had all sorts of expectations on him growing up, what he was going to do. He had gone away and he comes back. And he reads this passage out of Isaiah 61 that tells a different version of who the Messiah is going to be. He says, see, I come to preach good news to the poor. I'm not coming to hang out with the rich and wealthy. I'm going to come and give sight to the blind. And Jesus paints this picture of a different, powerful kingdom that is coming. Jesus shatters their expectations. He knows what they've said about him. He knows the expectations that have been there on his life. He says, no, I'm taking it a different direction because God has anointed me and told me something completely different for my life. You can imagine maybe some of their disappointment. You imagine that when they left, at some points in other Gospels, they say that they could tell something was different about him by the way he taught. Our culture today gives us pictures like this. Brother is trying to run on water. And we get things, and these are like good motivational posters, right? Like you're going to walk into the locker room and you're going to say, yeah, defy expectations. Tonight we're going to run on water. We ain't swimming laps, we run it. That was funnier than you gave me credit for. We have these big expectations, and people say go and defy them and do crazy, incredible things, and I think that's well and good. But I think a lot of times when people say defy expectations, what it's really doing is raising the bar higher and higher and higher for us to areas that we feel like we can't even grasp, and we're just going to fall short. See, what Jesus did when he defied expectations was he didn't let them raise the bar higher. He changed directions completely. He said, I know the kingdom that you think I'm coming to create, but this is the kingdom that I'm really coming to be a part of. Now, Jesus still had pressures. And later on in Luke, I was really struck this week while I read this. In Luke 22, the night before Jesus is going to be crucified, he goes up, and it says, this is 22, picking up with 39, it says, Jesus left and made his way to the Mount of Olives, as was his custom, and the disciples followed him. When he arrived there, he said to them, pray. They all went away and they prayed. I love that it says that he went away up to the mount, because he always went up to the mount to pray. He went away to a secluded place, and it says afterwards, it says, as was his custom. At this point in Luke, they realize that Jesus goes away all the time. He disappears to a private place and prays, and he has rest with God. It's something that is known at that point. It has become Jesus' custom to go away and rest in God. Now, Jesus had huge, huge expectations. And on the night before his death, the way he deals with those expectations is he just goes away. He rests in God. Hear me again, teenagers, and we realize this. You have huge, huge expectations on your life. And we, by no means, pretend that we have the answers for you. However, we are here, the adults in this room are here to tell you that we hear you, we understand that, and we are ready and willing to walk alongside you as you seek rest in God. Let me pray for you.